All right. Welcome in, everybody, to the deep dive. There are some Bible stories that they just kind of jump out at you and make you really
Oh,
think.
yeah.
And today we're going to be tackling one of those, um, the story of Rahab from the book of Joshua.
Love it.
And we've got two great sources to kind of guide our deep dive here. First, we have this Bible study lesson, Rahab, Faith, Wisdom, and God's Bigger Plan by Reverend Lettie Carr.
Great stuff.
And then we've also got this YouTube video, The Woman on the Wall, from Whosoever Believes Women of the Bible series, WCWC Bible Study.
Catchy.
So what we're going to try to do today is really dig into this ancient story and see what it can tell us about, well, a lot of things, really. I mean, faith, wisdom, and how God's plans might look nothing like what we expect.
Yeah, and how first impressions can be so misleading.
Oh, yeah, totally. It's like, don't judge a book by its cover.
Exactly. And these two sources, I think, offer a really interesting way to look at Rahab's story. I mean, Reverend Carr, gives us this really thoughtful, structured analysis. And then the YouTube video, it kind of brings this, I don't know, almost a modern perspective to it, makes it feel really relevant.
Yeah, I like that. It's a good mix. So, okay. Let's set the scene here. We're talking about the Exodus from Egypt. Huge event, right?
Mm.
Moses leads the Israelites out, and after he passes away, Joshua takes over and starts leading them towards this promised land.
Right.
But here's the thing. It's not a quick trip. I mean, this new generation is entering Canaan after, get this, 40 years of wandering in the wilderness.
Wow.
40 years.
Oh,
That's a long time.
it is.
And both our sources point out that's a direct result of the previous generation's lack of faith. Remember that story about the 12 spies sent into Canaan?
Oh, yeah.
10 of them came back totally freaked out,
Yeah.
saying there's no way we can conquer this land. It's full of giants. They're too powerful.
Yeah.
And only Joshua and Caleb, remember, were like, hey, God's got this. We can do it.
Right. Complete trust.
Total faith.
Yeah.
But the people, unfortunately, they sided with the fear. And that whole generation basically missed out on entering the promised land.
Except for Joshua and Caleb.
Yeah, Joshua and Caleb. Faith paid off for those two.
Yeah.
Okay, so now Joshua and the Israelites are finally ready to enter Canaan, and their first target is Jericho. Big, fortified city. Pretty intimidating, right?
Sounds like it.
But before they launch a full-on attack, Joshua sends in, you guessed it, 2 spies.
Mm.
And this is where the story gets a little bit unexpected, I guess you could say.
Yeah, twist.
Where do these spies end up? They go to the house of Rahab. And both our sources are very clear about who Rahab is, a prostitute.
Okay.
Yeah. So that raises the question, why her house? I mean, of all the places they could have gone in Jericho.
Yeah, you gotta wonder, right?
Exactly. And the YouTube video actually dives into this question pretty deeply. It suggests that maybe someone in Rahab's line of work, they would have had access to, like, a certain kind of information. Like, think about it. Waiters in a busy restaurant, staff in a big government building, they overhear things.
Yeah, they're kind of invisible sometimes. People just talk around them.
Right. And her house, it could have been this place where people from all walks of life, they came and went. They maybe let their guard down a little, maybe they weren't as careful about what they said.
Interesting. Sort of an informal intelligence network, maybe.
Exactly. So these spies, they're undercover, trying to get a sense of what they're up against. But, of course, word gets out.
Right.
News travels fast, especially in a city that might be under attack. The King of Jericho finds out about these Israelite spies, and he's like, hey, Rahab, bring them out.
Oh, man. High stakes.
Yeah, the pressure's on. And what does Rahab do? She hides the spies. I mean, she's bold.
No.
She puts them up on the roof of her house and hides them under these stalks of flax that were drying up there. And when the king's messengers show up, she straight up lies to their faces, tells them the spies were here, but they left at dusk, and she has no clue where they went. Even tells the messengers, go, hurry, you can still catch them.
Okay, so that's a pretty big lie.
It is.
And, that's something that both the Bible study and the YouTube video spend some time discussing. Like, was it okay for her to lie? What are we supposed to make of that?
Yeah, it's tricky.
It is.
But the YouTube video, it brings up this idea of shrewdness.
Shrewdness, okay.
Like Jesus himself in Matthew 10:16, he says, be as shrewd as snakes and as innocent as doves. And both sources kind of emphasize that, okay, this isn't about just lying all the time. It's about using wisdom and discernment, especially when you're in a really tough spot.
Yeah.
And Rahab, it seems like she recognized that these spies, they were part of something bigger.
Yeah, maybe even part of God's plan.
Yeah, exactly. And her shrewdness, it wasn't about, like, selfish gain or anything like that. It was tied to her understanding of who these men were and what they represented.
Right, it's strategic.
Yeah. And here's something else that's really interesting that the YouTube video points out. When Rahab asks the spies to swear an oath to her, she doesn't say, swear by your gods. She says, swear to me by the Lord.
So she's already kind of shifting her allegiance there.
Yeah, it's like a clue, right? It seems like she's starting to understand who the true God is. And then, before the spies settle in for the night, Rahab goes up to them on the roof. And what she says is just, wow. Both of our sources really highlight this. She says, and I'm quoting here, "I know that the Lord has given you this land. The terror of you has fallen on us, and all the inhabitants of the land are faint-hearted because of you." She even talks about how she's heard all these stories about the Israelites, about how God dried up the Red Sea for them, and how they defeated these powerful Amorite kings, Sihon and Og.
That's pretty amazing. I mean, she's a Gentile woman living in this city that's about to be attacked, and she's already acknowledging the power of the God of Israel. And all this based on, secondhand accounts. That's faith right there.
Yeah, it is. And then she makes it even clearer. She goes on to say, "For the Lord your God, he is God in heaven above and on earth beneath."
Powerful statement.
Very powerful. And the YouTube video, it talks about how unusual this would have been for someone in her position, in her culture, to say something like that. It's like she's turning away from all the false gods and embracing this new true God.
Big decision.
Huge. And this conviction, it leads directly to her request. She knows the Israelites are going to conquer Jericho. She knows God is with them. So she asks the spies to swear an oath by the Lord that they will show kindness to her and her whole family in return for her helping them.
So her father, mother, brothers, sisters, everybody.
Yep, the whole crew. And the spies, they agree. They make a solemn oath to protect her and her family as long as she keeps their mission a secret. And so, with that promise in place, Rahab helps them escape, lowers them down out of her window with a rope. I mean, think about that. Her house was built right into the city wall.
Wow. That's risky.
Very risky. And she tells them, go hide in the hills for 3 days, stay away from the main roads. And before they go, the spies give her very specific instructions. They tell her, tie this scarlet cord in your window. That's how we'll know it's your house. And when we come back, anyone inside will be safe.
That scarlet cord, it's such a powerful image, isn't it? I mean, the YouTube study actually compares it to the Passover in Egypt. Remember how the Israelites put the blood of a lamb on their doorposts so the angel of death would pass over them?
Oh, yeah.
It's like that. The scarlet cord, it's a sign of protection, of deliverance.
Yeah, I like that. And this brings us to a really big takeaway, something both sources emphasize. Don't underestimate people. I mean, don't judge them based on their background, their job, or anything like that. God can use anyone.
He really can.
Right. And Reverend Carr's study gives some amazing examples from the Bible, like a donkey that talks, someone who used to be, a drug dealer or whatever, the demon-possessed man who gets healed and becomes this incredible witness for God. Sure. And even, a blind man who gets his sight back because of his faith.
Yeah, and the YouTube video brings up something really interesting, too. It mentions what Jesus said in Matthew 21:28-32. How those who are often looked down on by society, people like tax collectors and prostitutes, they're actually going to enter the kingdom of God before those who think they're so righteous.
Wow. Rahab is like the perfect example of that.
She really is.
Okay, so another key takeaway here is Rahab's wisdom. I mean, think about it. She's a prostitute in this city that's opposed to Israel, yet she recognizes what God is doing. She sees that Jericho is doomed. And the YouTube study, it makes this really interesting comparison. It says that Rahab's understanding of the times, it's kind of like the sons of Issachar in the Bible. They were known for being able to discern what was going on and what Israel should do.
They were the strategic thinkers, the ones who could read the signs of the times.
Yeah, exactly. And both sources point out that there's a difference between knowledge and wisdom, right? Like Rahab knew about the Red Sea crossing. She had the knowledge, but she also had the wisdom to understand what it meant for her present situation.
It's not just knowing the facts. It's about applying them, making good decisions based on what you know.
Right. And that leads us to our third takeaway. Rahab was shrewd. We talked about that a little bit earlier. Her hiding the spies, lying to the messengers, it wasn't just plain old dishonesty. It was about using her smarts, her wisdom, in a tough situation. Like Matthew 10:16 says, be wise as serpents and harmless as doves.
Yeah, it's about being strategic, using your head, but also not being malicious.
Right. And remember, when she asked the spies to swear an oath, she made them swear by the Lord. That shows she was thinking spiritually, too. And the YouTube video makes another good point. It says that part of being wise is knowing when to be quiet. Rahab didn't say more than she needed to. She knew how to keep her mouth shut.
Which is a valuable skill in any situation, really.
Oh, absolutely. Okay, so let's zoom out a bit and see how Rahab's story fits into God's bigger plan, because both of our sources make it clear that this isn't just some random event.
Right. There's a bigger picture here.
Yeah. So after the whole spy episode, the next big thing in the book of Joshua is the Israelites crossing the Jordan River. This is in chapters 3 and 4. And it's a huge deal, right?
Absolutely. I mean, it's a miracle. The Jordan River was overflowing its banks, but when the priests carrying the Ark of the Covenant stepped into the water, it stopped flowing. Just like that.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And it shows how God is still with them, still working through Joshua, just like he did with Moses.
Right. It's a new generation, a new leader, but God's faithfulness is constant. And the YouTube video, it actually points out something really interesting about this crossing. Remember how at the Red Sea, God parted the waters and the Israelites walked across on dry land?
Uh-huh.
But here at the Jordan, they had to actually step into the overflowing water first. They had to trust that God would stop the flow.
Oh, wow. That's a good point. It's like they had to take that step of faith. They had to be active in their trust.
Exactly. And then after they cross the Jordan, there's this important moment where they renew the covenant with God. Joshua chapter 5 talks about how all the Israelite men were circumcised.
Okay, now what's the significance of that?
Well, the generation that was born in the wilderness, they hadn't been circumcised. So this was like a rededication to God, a symbolic break from the disobedience of their fathers. It was like saying, okay, we're ready to do things right this time. We're committed to following you.
Wow. I never thought about it that way. It's like a fresh start, right?
Yeah, a new beginning. And then finally, we come to the main event, the fall of Jericho. Joshua chapter 6. Now this city, Jericho, it was heavily fortified, like super protected. But God, he had a different plan.
Yeah, because they don't exactly storm the gates, right?
No, not at all. It's this whole elaborate plan. God tells Joshua to have the army march around the city once a day for 6 days. The priests carry the Ark of the Covenant and they just walk around the city.
That's so strange.
Right. And then on the 7th day, they march around 7 times. And when they hear the trumpets blow and Joshua tells them to shout, they all shout at the top of their lungs. And guess what?
The walls come tumbling down.
The walls collapse. It's a total miracle. And it shows, again, that the victory belongs to God. His ways are not our ways.
And this is where Rahab's story comes full circle, right? Because after the walls fall, Joshua remembers the promise the spies made to Rahab. And he sends them back to her house to bring her and her whole family out to safety.
It's amazing. She and her father, mother, brothers, sisters, they all escaped. They were spared while the rest of the city was destroyed. And that's not even the end of her story.
No, there's more.
Oh, yeah. Both sources emphasize this. Joshua 6.25 says that Rahab dwelt in Israel to this day. She wasn't just rescued, she became part of the community, like an official member of God's chosen people.
Wow, I never realized that. That's incredible.
It really is. And here's where things get even more mind-blowing.
Hold on. It gets better than this.
Oh, yeah. In the New Testament, in the book of Matthew, chapter 1, verse 5, there's this genealogy of Jesus, and guess who's in it?
I don't know. Abraham, Moses.
Rahab.
No way.
The former prostitute, the woman from Jericho, she's a direct ancestor of Jesus Christ.
That's unbelievable.
It is. And the YouTube study just goes crazy over this point. They're like, this changes everything. It shows how God can use anyone, how his plans are so much bigger than we can imagine.
I'm speechless.
And wait, there's more. The book of Hebrews, chapter 11, verse 31, that's often called the Hall of Faith. It lists Rahab as a hero of faith. It says, by faith, the harlot Rahab did not perish with those who did not believe because she welcomed the spies in peace. She's right there with Abraham, Moses, Noah, all the big names.
Yeah, the all-stars.
Exactly. And even the book of James, chapter 2, verse 25, it uses Rahab as an example of how faith has to be shown through actions. It says, was not even Rahab the prostitute considered righteous for what she did when she gave lodging to the spies and sent them off in a different direction? So it's not just about believing, it's about doing something about it.
Okay, so as we wrap this up, let's just recap some of the main things we've learned from this deep dive into Rahab's story. First, faith has no limits. Doesn't matter where you come from, what you've done, God can use you. Second, wisdom can be found in unexpected places. And third, when you align yourself with God's plan, even in small ways, the results can be huge. I mean, Rahab went from being a nobody in a doomed city to being an ancestor of Jesus and a hero of faith.
It's an incredible story. And it really makes you think, doesn't it? Like maybe we're too quick to judge people to put them in boxes.
Yeah, for sure.
Rahab shows us that God sees things differently, and he can use anyone, no matter their past, to do amazing things.
So here's a question for all of you listening. In what ways might we be limiting ourselves or limiting others by our preconceived notions? I mean, how often do we judge people based on their appearance, their job, their background? And what if instead we tried to see them through God's eyes? What potential might we unlock? What amazing things might we be a part of if we just opened our minds a little bit?
Something to ponder.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the story of Rahab. We'll see you next time.